This is 8-5, law of sines and law of cosines. This might take some explaining, so in order to save time, I'm going to skip the warm-up. So basically what we're going to have here is a non-right triangle. So we've been doing all right triangles so far, talking about Pythagorean theorem and trigonometric ratios, sine, cosine, and tangent. Those are perfect for right triangles, but for a non-right triangle, so those are right here, not every triangle is a right triangle. We can use the law of sines to solve a triangle. If we have two angle measures in any side length, or two side lengths in a not included angle measure. So we can use law of sines when we have AAS essentially and SSA, but something tells me that if I actually just write that on the other side, more people will remember it. So AAS or ASS, you can use law of sines. This is the formula for law of sines, so I'll show you how that works in the next page. Now, it's not usually going to say use the law of sines. It's going to say solve the triangle. It has to be a non-right triangle to use this. This one is not a right triangle. It's an obtuse triangle in this case. We were provided two angles and a side. So we were provided with AAS. So that's how I know I'm going to be using law of sines. Now basically you just are going to be setting up a proportion. So I can call any one of those angles A and B, etc. So I kind of only need this in that case. So if let's just name this, remember angles are capital letters, angle, and sides are lowercase letters. So if I'm talking about angle F as angle A, then the side opposite that would have to be lowercase a. And so I can call this side, this angle B, capital B, and the side opposite that we're trying to find is going to be lowercase b. So we don't know the length of FG, we're going to call it lowercase b. So let's plug away what we know. We know that sine of angle A, which was angle F, is 39 degrees over its opposite side, which was 40, is equal to sine of angle B, which is 32 degrees, over lowercase b, because that's what we're trying to find. And once we have a proportion, we're just going to cross simplify. So I end up with sine 39b is equal to 40 times sine 32. And then I'm going to divide by sine 39, divide by sine 39. So I'm going to try to type it all in like this because that would be the most accurate answer since I'm not going to be rounding until the very end. It's just if your calculator will let you do that. And so I got that angle, side B, is 30, what does it say, round to the nearest tenth for side, so 33.7. Okay, let's take a look at what they gave us here. So we have an angle, oops, I thought that was a highlighter, try that again. Okay, so we have an angle, we have a side, and another side. It's a non-included angle. It's not in between the two. So it's ASS, which means that I can use law of sines to calculate. Kind of obvious at this point since we haven't learned the law of cosines yet. And I'm going to be looking for a measure of angle Q. If you look, 6 is across from Q, and angle P has a side of 8 across from it. So again, I can call this like angle A, and that would be side A. I'll call this angle B, and that's side B. And so I'm doing sine of the angle over its opposite side, 8, is equal to sine of angle B, all over 6. Now we're missing an angle, so just like the other ones that we've been doing, when we're missing an angle, we're going to need inverse sine. Sine -1, basically. Oops, that's what I meant to write. Okay, so we're going to cross multiply like we did before. So it would be sine 51 times 6 equals 8 times sine -1 of b, the inverse sine. Divide both sides by 8 to cancel that. And so I'm going to type that in, sine 51 times 6 equals, divide by 8 equals, and I have something like 0.582, and I'm going to now do inverse sine. 35.7. No, it's an angle. 36 degrees, sorry. Said whole number for angles. Now, if you're doing this on a calculator that's different from mine, how do I go back? So it was like 51 sine times 6 equals, divide by 8 equals. And you don't want to write down 0.5828594771. What you would do on your calculator, if you have the 2i30x2s, on the bottom right, there's something that says answer. You would have to press second to get there. It's like second and then whatever the key is, but it'll take you to this answer. And so once you get that answer of 0.5828594771, you can then press inverse sine on your calculator, and then you can put that second answer, and then the answer button. And so it'll do the inverse sine of all of those numbers without you having to write them down. And you'll get 36 degrees. So this is just how to use your calculator. Okay, pause the video for this part, try the now you try, and hit play when you're ready to see the answers. So I got DF is 9.9 and measure of angle B is 44 degrees. So the law of cosines formulas are a little bit longer, so people get overwhelmed right away. And they write out 3. You really don't need all 3 of these. You just need to know that the A will always be your side. And this is your angle, the capital A, that we're focused on. So if we're missing, like for instance in example 3a, they want us to find this side xz. So I'm going to call that side, since sides are lowercase, that's going to be our lowercase a, because that's what we're trying to find, which makes the 110 capital A. And then the other two don't matter. You can call one of them B and one of them C. It really doesn't matter. So call that B, call that C. And we're just going to plug into the formula now. So A squared equals B squared, so 35 squared, plus C squared. Technically there's parentheses because we are replacing variables. Minus, what's a squared? Minus 2 times B times C, cosine of angle A, which is 110 degrees. So based on PEMDAS, we would have to do parentheses first, but there's nothing in the parentheses to do. So then I'm going to, for the next step, I'm going to do exponents. So 35 squared is 1,225. 30 squared is 900. And I'm just going to rewrite the rest of this so you can see. Okay, so this beginning part that I'm highlighting, that's addition, so we can't do that yet. But we can multiply -2, even though it's a -2. Just think of it as a -2 times 35 times 30 times cosine 10. So let's try that. So that would get us, oops, A squared equals 1225 plus 900, and I'm going to calculate all the other stuff. So 2 negative times 35 times 30 times cosine of 110 that's going to be 718 point round length side length to the nearest tenth. 718.2. Okay, and so then we have a squared equals, I'm going to add all that up. So 1225 plus 900 plus 718.2. I technically should have left all those decimals on that other one, but that's okay. We'll get close enough. 2,843.2. Now to get a by itself, we're going to have to square root both sides. And so therefore a is equal to 53. And that actually makes sense because since 110 is obtuse, it has to be the biggest angle in this triangle. There's only 70 left for the other two triangles. And so if it's the biggest, I didn't mean to put degrees, if it's the biggest angle, then the side across from it, side A, has to be the largest side. So at least we came up with the largest side. So find the measure, round to the nearest tenth, should have been 0.3, 53.3. And that's it. We did what we needed to do there. And now this time measure of angle T will actually, remember I told you that we're going to call it A every time, so it's really the measure of angle A, which means that the lowercase a is 7. And now my other two are just B and C, whichever one you want it to be. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do my formula. 7 squared equals B squared, which is 13 squared, plus C squared is 11 squared, minus 2 times 13 times 11 times cosine A. We're missing the angle. So I know I'm going to need inverse at some point, inverse of cosine. So 7 squared is 49, 13 squared is 169, 11 squared is 121, and now I'm going to be multiplying all of that stuff together. So negative 2 times, 13 times 11 equals negative 286 cosine A. Okay, so now I'm ready to add and subtract. These are unlike terms. This one is like saying negative 268x, and these are constants. So I can add these two, and I get 49 equals 169 plus 121 equals 290 minus 268 cosine A. You can't have, we're going to get the variables on one side and the numbers on the other, so I'm going to subtract 290 from both sides. So I got negative 241 is equal to negative 268 cosine A, or negative 268x. So I divide both sides by negative 268. Oops, I didn't mean to cancel the left. So cosine A is equal to negative 241 divided by 268. Two negatives make a positive. Now I'm going to use inverse cosine. I should have put negative 1 right there. 26 degrees. Try the now. You try, hit play when you're ready to see the answers. BC is 12.6 and the measure of angle R is 73 degrees. For the first word problem, I chose to use law of cosine. And for the second one, since I already had two sides and an angle, ASS. I use law of sines. For the now you try, I got 2.8 for the length of CB. And I got 83 degrees for the measure of angle C.